Hello, children. Yes, I said children. Okay, we're going to talk about thesis statements a little bit more today. We were talking about getting into this now in class. Um, let's see if we can zoom in a little bit. Okay. So, what I want to talk about with thesis statements is how do you create one? Well, we definitely need to talk about first what is a thesis statement. So, eventually we're going to be working on a project in ninth grade. You freshmen are working on multi-genre projects. So, we already talked about topic sentences being the one sentence, the power one, that describes and tells our reader what the paragraph is going to be about. A thesis statement is even more important because at the paper level or the project level, that thesis statement is also a power one. It tells our readers or audience, whoever that might be, what our project or paper is going to be about. There's a couple rules that you should always keep in mind, or I should say characteristics of thesis statements. One, again, we just said they guide our readers and let them know what this paper is going to be about. They are very concise. Okay, when I say statement now, we're talking about a sentence. They're going to be concise, meaning they're not wordy. They don't ramble on. At our level, all the way through high school, I try and keep students to one sentence long for all thesis statements. Now, as you get higher and higher in grades, you probably will have more complicated thesis statements, more complex sentences, compound sentences, and that sort of thing. We talk about three-part thesis statements, but you still want it to be one sentence long. It should show up in your introductory paragraph, and it's going to be the last sentence in that intro paragraph, and that has to do with transitioning, moving from one idea into the next. If you tell your reader exactly what your thesis statement is, and then jump right into your body paragraphs, that makes sense. It automatically gets your readers ready for the information. If you do your thesis statement first, and then you have, we're going to talk about what the hook next. If you put the hook after your thesis statement, then something has gotten in the way before you got to your first body paragraph. So always keep that to be the last part of your intro paragraph. And this will make a little bit more sense here. I created just a real quick thesis statement that has to do with trees, because I have some experience with trees. And notice here that I put a circle in a word, the word hook, that goes in front of my thesis statement. So if my thesis statement starts here, the hook, whether that's 3 or 4 lines, whether it's one line, it's going to come before that, and it's going to comprise our entire introductory paragraph. But again, thesis statement comes last. As soon as my thesis statement is over, notice the arrow shows A, B, and C here. I've got a little note-taking going on, outline. These are going to be my body paragraphs. Each one of these body paragraphs support this thesis statement. The same way our supporting ideas support our topic sentence in a normal, just regular paragraph by itself. So if we read this, it says peeling the bark off of pine trees is necessary to keeping the lumber of strong quality for longer durations. Now, I don't really care for strong quality. That sounds kind of wordy. I would probably shorten this by saying something like, peeling the bark off of pine trees is necessary to keep lumber strong, or to keep a higher quality lumber for longer durations. But that one sentence, it is concise. I don't go on to talk about, drying lumber. I don't go on to talk about, how to cut lumber, or, what kind of saw I should use, or, what trees are the best. I'm just focusing on peeling the bark off. And I'm actually, because I'm putting pine trees in there, I have to stick to pine trees in my paper, because whatever shows up in this thesis statement has to be what my support covers. If I put too much in here, then my paper is going to go on forever and ever and ever, and it's not going to feel like I'm organized, like I'm just rambling. So I want to be concise and specific, but I also don't want it to be too short and too specific, because then it makes my paragraph too narrow. It's almost as if, or my paper too narrow. It's like we don't have enough to talk about now. So you have to find that balance. I have enough to talk about here. I'm going to talk about the drying times in my first body paragraph. It's easier to dry lumber when the bark is off, because bark holds moisture. I'm going to talk about bugs and how they love to dig into bark, and then that can actually ruin the lumber. So again, I need to peel the bark off. And I'm also going to talk about mold. Mold grows in moist, wet environments. So again, if drying is easier with the bark off, then I can avoid mold as well. So I can think of 1, 2, 3 body paragraphs to support this thesis statement. So I could write a paper about this. So let's see here. If we start breaking down each part by part, this intro paragraph, as we said, is going to have some kind of hook, and we haven't gotten there yet. We're focusing on this thesis statement, but notice the order, A and then B. Our body comes in as support to support the thesis, and then of course we're going to have a conclusion, which brings our project to an end. It should sound natural, just like our conclusion sentences always do. And it should wrap up and connect to the thesis at least one more time, but really we're going to be focusing on this today. So, freshmen, here we are. Okay, we are currently covering the book Skellig, and so we've been working on a multi-genre paper for Skellig, or multi-genre project, and we decided that dreams that was going to be our topic for this project. We mentioned something about making it in a comparison to reality, but dreams is really the big topic. It's going to be up to you to design some sort of project that focuses on dreams. So then you need to start asking yourself, well, what do I want to talk about, in terms of dreams? Well, we did a proposal the other day. You're supposed to turn in a proposal that gave some hinting as to what you really wanted to focus on. And the more and more I thought about it, the more it sounded like this was a question. What kind of question do you have about dreams? What are those questions out there that you wonder about? And I'm going to do this kind of right alongside of you. So my question here I wanted to share is, are dreams simply memories and thoughts that get mixed up and replayed at night? That's kind of what science believes. Or are they something bigger? And when I say bigger, notice I underline this. I wasn't too crazy about that word. Really, I want to focus on importance. Okay? So, are they something more important? So, here we go. I started drafting a couple thesis statements out, and I'm going to just kind of show you real quick. This process of drafting, to get a concise sentence that's, one sentence long that covers enough of the information that we want to talk about in our project, that takes some time. It takes some kind of trial and error, editing and revising. And right there you can see, look at this mess I got going on here. I'm going to take you step by step, but actually I had 3 versions here that I didn't really like, but each time it got me closer to my end result. The first one I wrote was, for me, dreams represent a mysterious unknown that is hinted to me every night. Well, first of all, I can tell you right here, to me and for me, those are annoying repetition, repetitious statements. Obviously, it's for me. I'm the writer of this paper, so I'm going to get rid of that right off the bat. And I've already said this twice, so that I don't like. But my big issue here is dreams represent. At first, I really like represent. But a mysterious unknown. Boy, is that vague. Meaning, it's kind of open for interpretation. I have no idea what that means, and my reader's not going to know what that means. Am I going to start talking about aliens? Am I going to start talking about, anything that's mysterious? Bigfoot? No, probably not. I have something better in mind, something more specific. So I need to redraft what I have here into something else to fix those issues. Now, does that mean that, oh, I really screwed up? No. This is actually good. So if you get home and you start drafting and you're like, you know what, I hate this. This is garbage. Don't feel that way. Feel like, hey, I've got my first step done. Now I enter that process of revision. So, Thesis 2. Look at this one. What a mess. Again, I still had for me here, but I'm seeing it. I'm going to change it here. Now I had originally, for me, dreams represented, and you can see I put images and events. Now that was too vague. I want to get more specific. For me, dreams have represented a connection, and then I went to previous life experiences, specifically a past life home. Now, freshmen, you know what I'm talking about here because we talked about this. I told you, I shared my dream with you where I dreamt that, and I've had this dream many times, I've dreamt that I'm in my home, that I can recognize things. You know, I'm pulling open drawers and finding little kind of, not antiques, but artifacts from, when I was a child, and I have memories of this place, but really, when I wake up, I know that I haven't, actually, that place didn't exist for me, really. So, I've always wondered about that dream, maybe I'm playing with some sort of past life experience, if you believe that sort of thing. I don't know. So that's where I'm kind of starting to draw this thesis statement to. You can see a past life home here. I've added that in. Specifically a past life home. This is a little too wordy, so I want to clarify and focus this even more. So let's see how I did in the third one, the third draft. Still didn't like it. But I think it's getting better. It's more specific. Look how much shorter it is. To the point. Dreams have represented, and by the time I got here, I didn't like represented anymore. But we'll see how it works. Dreams have represented a past life home. Well, this is too specific, and there's no support for this. If I left it like this is my thesis statement, that means my paper or my project are going to be about dreams representing a house. And I think there's something deeper, there's something more I want to cover in here. So now I've actually gone too far and made it too specific. So let's see how I finally came up to mastering this. Down at the bottom here, and this isn't perfect again. See, I'm still editing, but here's what I have. Dreams have led me to believe that I have lived previous lives. Okay, now, I might be a little too open here, but I think now I can start a project that connects me to, one, dreams, which is our topic, and really what I want to talk about is, are these dreams actually connected to memories from when I lived a previous life? Now, you might be laughing at home and thinking, well, this guy's crazy, but I don't know if I really believe this. I don't have any proof that it doesn't exist. It seems far out there, but it's something that I want to explore. It's something I want to be creative with and, kind of develop a project around. So I don't really care if it sounds silly. This is, I'm more focused about the format of my writing, and I think this is a place where I can now start and say, hey, I've got a thesis statement.